Okay, we will call to order the April 2021 meeting of the Sycamore Township Zoning Commission. My name is Roger Friedman, the chairman. Mr. Meese, as usual, if you would take the roll.
Certainly. Ms. Flanagan.
Present.
Mr. Bear.
Present.
Let's see, Mr. Roos. Stephen. Mr. Swanson. Is Bill on?
I don't see him yet, but he said he was attending. He may be having issues getting on.
Okay, and Mr. Friedman.
Present.
And I'm here as well. Looks like
So-
we're looking for Steve and Bill.
We do have a quorum. We can proceed. I did see Bill's or Will's email indicating he was going to be on, but I haven't seen him yet. So we can see if they come in later on and see if there's any changes to the minutes for the March 8th meeting, 2021. Mr. Miller just indicated that we're still waiting for the updated minutes from December 14th, 2020. As usual, we need a motion to authorize electronic signatures for any document that needs to be signed. If someone would make that motion.
I'll move that we approve electronic signatures for anything that requires it.
Second by Mr. Meese. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries. As I said, we'll put off the question of the minutes until the end of the meeting to see if Steve or Will gets on the meeting with any suggested changes. I think moving on to old business, we have case number 2021-02MA. The applicant is Kugler Mill Square LLC for property located at 8495 Voorhees Lane. It's a major adjustment to a PUD. I know I've seen several additional documents related to this project come in over the last couple of weeks. So, Mr. Miller, if you could kind of give us an update on where things stand. And I did see Mr. Swanson join us, so welcome, Will.
Nope. All right. Good evening, everyone. So with this being a continuation of our last case, I won't go through everything, but this is, again, case number 2021-02MA. This is Kugler Mill Square LLC. We do have the owner and representative for the case here tonight. We have a couple of addresses on it. I believe, did you use 8495 Voorhees?
Yes.
That's what I used. That's what was on the
All right, that's fine.
agenda
Okay.
and on your staff report.
That's fine. 8495 Voorhees Lane. This is a existing multifamily development. Currently, actually, let me go ahead and do my screen share here. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So this is a current multifamily development, which is at 68 total units. The applicant is proposing to increase this to 118 with the addition of multiple buildings and as well as demoing one. Let's see here. This is just a simple aerial of the site with the development highlighted in red. As you can see, we have single family for the most part surrounding it. This is all C, single family residential, with the exception of the light industrial across the street on Voorhees. Okay, just to recap this, we do have 5 existing buildings that will be kept. There's one duplex style building here in this northeastern corner that is to be raised, but the 5 existing here are numbered with the new proposed buildings lettered here to the south A, B and C to the northwest, and on the far east side of the development, you have D and E. Oops. It's just a recap of the drainage plan. Landscaping, as we discussed at the last meeting, is in excess of what is required per the Sycamore Township zoning resolution. Couple of things I do want to talk about. Let's see. I guess this is probably the best one. We had some concerns about locations of the dumpsters. We have one dumpster here, and the other dumpster is. I'm assuming you guys can see my mouse moving around. So we have one on the far west side of the property, which is heavily screened by landscaping. We have another to the west of of buildings D and E, here kind of at the corner, also heavily landscaped. And I'm going to show you a detail of that in a moment. Another item they're indicating on here, and I'd like the applicant to talk about this a little bit. So there's not really a clear indication of the extent of the fencing on the site. However, there is documentation for fencing as well as details. It looks like to me that it's going to extend over an extensive part of the perimeter. I just would like some clarification when it comes their time to that full extent. So let's see here. So this is the fence I'm talking about, and you can see in some of these elevations and details that we have the additional landscaping coverage as well as the fence in the back and foreground. So this is the westernmost dumpster with heavy landscaping behind it as well as the fence. So from the residential side, looking back east, you have the fence and then that same landscaping. Here in the bottom left corner, you have a detail for a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence that can also be seen in these elevation details. The fence is here. This is actually this will be the northern property line, and then you also have the fence again. That would be the western property line. One thing the applicant submitted these elevations or these kind of segment details to show the height relationship between the proposed 3-story that they originally submitted in relation to the existing 2.5-story, as well as the comparison of the single-family homes, this one being on Williams Avenue, in relation to the proposed 3-story multifamily buildings. This grayed out area is the duplex that's being raised. So even though they're increasing in height, they are moving it further back from the property line and creating some additional buffering with the landscaping. We also have details of the dumpsters, which are in conformance with the Sycamore Township zoning resolution. Another thing that we asked the applicant to submit was a photometric plan. This was the first photometric plan that was submitted shortly after our request for additional detail. They did a pretty good job with this one. I can zoom in a little bit to show you. We were getting zeros in most areas of the plan. However, even though I don't believe we ever hit 0.5, which is what the zoning resolution allows for, we were getting kind of close with the 0.4. I did suggest to the applicant that we take these directional lights that are illuminating the parking lot from the interior, move them to the perimeter, and point them back into the site. The applicant did take that suggestion to heart. Let's see. And in this area, they moved these lights to perimeter lighting, and that did significantly reduce the light spillage onto the residential. Also, keep in mind that based on the extent of the fencing, even though we do have some bleed over at ground level, there's going to be a solid barrier. Again, I'd like the applicant to weigh in on that when it's time. Let me zoom back out on this. So again, you can see the change. These 5 lights did move. Okay, and I was also given an example of the directional LED light that would be utilized. Okay. Again, this was submitted from prior, but these are the front elevations of the buildings. This would be for building A, the southernmost building. B, C, D, and E would all have the same elevation as indicated here. All right, so the applicant is still moving forward, proposing 118 units at the density of 16.7 dwelling units per acre. So should the zoning commission recommend approval to the board of trustees, staff makes the following suggestions for conditions. Number 1, the applicant proposes a density of 16.74 dwelling units per acre. The increase in density must be approved by board of trustees. As discussed at the last meeting, the increase in density above 14.5 is permitted, provided that it is approved as part of an SPUD. Given this is an existing SPUD, that could be approved through the major adjustment process. One other thing that I didn't note on in my presentation or in my staff comments, we did receive an email from the school, from Deer Park Schools, stating that provided that there are no tax abatements that are being provided by the township, they would be in favor of this application. They have no concerns with any potential new students that would come on. Their capacity would have no trouble taking on the additional students. Okay, and I'm available if the commission has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. Does anyone have any questions right now for Mr. Miller?
I do.
Go ahead.
Skylar, there was a question, I think, about that one parcel that is not part of the development, but I believe it's part of the ownership. Do we get clarification that that is not part of this application, or what is the result of that?
We can't, you know what? I don't know if we have an official response on that. I think that was addressed at the last meeting. It's going to be just a remnant parcel that they're not making any improvements on.
I know it's not part of the drawing submittal, so I guess we would ignore that, but I just want to make sure it's also not part of the acreage that was calculated on the drawings.
That may be, and if it is part of the acreage, then it would have to stay with the property. It wouldn't be able to be sold off or anything like that to an adjacent resident. So there will also, based on setbacks, everything else, it'd be very difficult to do any type of amenities or anything in that area. It would just have to stay with the property. So we'll get some clarification from the applicant on the calculations.
Kyle, I have a question about the designs of the building, and maybe the applicant can answer these when the time comes. But are there balconies on the side of buildings D and E that would look down into the backyard of the neighbors that are right there on the property line?
I will pull I'll pull those plans back up. So we'll confirm this with the applicant, but these are the front elevations. So the ground level floor has patios with balconies looking out. So with this being, there's kind of 4 units per section per floor. So the rears are going to have that similar design.
Okay.
I believe this is the rear of the building. This would be the front in this plan. So they are showing a patio. I don't know if the upper levels in the rear would have the decks as well, but I would imagine.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Miller? Okay, hearing none. If anyone is here for the applicant, if you would give us your name and anything that you want to add to the Mr. Miller's report and the submittals that we have received.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
This is Alex Betch with Bayer Becker. I'm here representing the applicant. Kirk Kopenhofer is also on the call to answer a few of Skylar's questions. And thanks, Skylar, for the presentation. That was really great. You covered a lot of the points, so that takes a lot of the work away from me, so I appreciate that. In regards to the privacy fence, I know that was one question. It would run, it's a 6-foot high privacy fence, and it would run along the entirety of the western property line as well as the northern property line. So those 2 property lines would have that privacy fence along with the supplemental landscape buffer that would go along with any existing vegetation that would be in those areas. The other question about the balconies, there would be balconies on the front and back side of the building, not on the sides though, just the front and the back. A few other items I did want to touch on, just about some improvements that we believe are being made on the property with this new design. There will be upgrades and improvements to the sanitary sewer and water infrastructure. Both of those likely requiring upgrades to the public systems, which will come at the cost of the applicant. And Bayer Becker intends to meet with the fire department during the next phase to ensure that all their needs are met, and that would obviously operate in conjunction with GCWW's needs and requirements. The stormwater management system would also obviously be a new system with a surface basin, a dry basin in the northwest corner of the site. This should reduce or eliminate any stormwater runoff that is currently happening to the adjacent properties, particularly to the north and to the west. The basin will be designed per all the proper guidelines and standards, and that should account for all of the stormwater, which then releases into an outlet in the northwest corner there. We talked about the privacy fence with the landscape buffer. I had mentioned this previously, but we intend to keep any existing trees wherever possible, where it seems like it'll work. We'll do any tree surveys and enhanced landscape plans at the next phase where that'll be determined. The new owner has already made a lot of improvements to the existing site in terms of interior work, especially with upgrades to the units, new finishes, new appliances, that sort of thing. And they just intend to take that same strategy to the exterior of the site to make improvements to increase the density, but also to improve circulation for vehicular circulation, fire, and trash access. We now have an internal loop to the site so they can navigate without having to back up and turn around internal to the site. Also, pedestrian circulation has been improved with new sidewalks connecting to existing sidewalks, and the amenity space has been centrally located, so it's easily accessible by everyone within the development. And I think the applicant would also encourage and it would want this development to stitch into the existing fabric of the community. So the sidewalks, this wouldn't be a gated community. Sidewalks would be open for everyone to walk through and enjoy the neighborhood. We want it to feel like it's a part of the surrounding community. Skylar touched on the lighting. Just a few, we were working with a lighting consultant, just a few bullet points about the particular lighting that we're proposing. Sorry, I thought I lost you guys there for a second.
Sorry, do you want me to put it up?
Sure, yeah. So as Skylar touched on, the property line ratings are low. They're below the township guidelines. And in addition to that, with the privacy fence and the landscape buffer, there should be really minimal impact to the adjacent properties. They're proposing 300K LEDs, which is a very warm color light, which is aesthetically pleasing. It's also approved by the Dark Sky Association, which basically means that there's no impact to the night sky. Essentially, you can look up and view the stars as you would if the lights weren't there. They're downward facing with directional lighting. They're not shooting up into the sky, they're shooting down onto the pavement, which provides sufficient lighting for the residents living in the community, but limits the amount of light pollution, essentially eliminates light pollution so that you can still enjoy the night sky when you're sitting on your back patio.
Alex, question about that.
Sure.
So all lights on site are going to be, I think it's 3000K, right? That would be the softer yellow light.
I think so, yeah. That's
Yeah,
correct.
okay. But even existing lights are going to be replaced with the 3000?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's really all I had. Yeah, there's the spec for the lighting fixture. If Kirk's with us, he may be able to come on and say a few words just about the applicant and the site in general.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, this is Kirk Copenhaver. Thanks, Alex. I just wanted to take a second to reiterate our commitment to the area and this community. Like Alex said, we want this to be part of the community, and my wife's family in particular has really deep ties with the area. They've owned property there for decades, and many of them are from that area, raised in that area. And we're not looking to just develop this project and sell it. We're really looking to hold on to it and have it become, a really good place for folks in the area to live. So I think, you've seen that we've addressed a lot of the concerns of both the commission and the neighbors. And I just hope you take that into consideration when you're making your decision.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the applicants? Does anyone have any questions for the applicants? Anyone? Okay, if there's anyone else in attendance who would like to speak with regard to the application, if you would raise your hand or let us know that you want to make a comment, and we'll get you on the Zoom call.
Okay, is it Judy, is it Geis? Yeah, go ahead and unmute. Judy, can you unmute?
Maybe, maybe not.
Rob, can you help her out? Ms. Judy Geis, she's trying to speak, but she's muted. Can you, yeah, Judy, there you go.
Oh, I'm unmuted now, I think.
There you go.
You
You
are.
know, I just want to make sure that I understood what was said about the lights. And if they're going to shine away from the residents toward the apartments. And I'm just wanting to make sure that that is what I heard.
Yeah. So I'll bring that back up very quickly. So this is the latest proposed lighting photometric plan. So Ms. Geis, am I pronouncing it correctly?
It's geesey.
Yeezy, sorry. Okay. So I believe your property is here on the eastern side.
We're on Voorhees and Williams, so we are on the
Oh, you're up here?
northern eastern part. Yes, we're the
Oh,
first.
right.
We're this property right.
Yeah.
Right
So
there.
Yeah, so the lighting in this area is perimeter lighting. So the poles are closer to the property line, but they're shining back into the site. So
And the pole that's there right now, it's really bright. It actually lights up my whole room upstairs, believe it or not. But if they're going to take that light out, correct? Because it's a big light that shines everywhere, all around it. So
yeah.
that's going to go. I have one other question. How far is the end of that building to the street? How much space is in there?
This way?
Yes. Is that 20 feet?
No, more than that. Alex, do you have that number?
I don't have the exact number, but there's a 40-foot building setback and then probably another 15 feet or so. So probably about 50 or 55
Okay.
feet.
Okay.
And the parking is.
And the parking's across from it, but the fence should actually hold the noise down if cars got in there and started their car up. With the fence, it
Fencing
should
in.
hold that. Like if somebody got up at 3 a.m. to go to work, their car wouldn't wake us up because that fence would keep that noise out.
Mhm.
Yes?
It certainly would mitigate it. So if you're at this northeast corner, you're probably cars driving up and down the street are probably gonna be closer to you.
Than that. Yeah, but I just know in the wintertime they turn their car on and it's on for maybe 15 minutes before they leave.
Mm-hmm.
I know that from other people who do it. So I was just wondering if the fence if the 6-foot fence would hold that noise back.
They're not really designed to be sound barriers, but I'm sure there's some kind of mitigating impact there. Nothing I can measure.
Right. I didn't think you would, but I didn't know if they're putting up. I know some fences will keep noise down some. I know they do it so that neighbors or the residents don't have to hear constant noise. And I was just wondering if these are going to do that some. Since there's so many cars, I know
Yeah.
they've got the parking lot right there, and I'm sure there's going to be at least 50 cars there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does appear to be a solid privacy fence. So,
Okay.
Again, I don't think we can promise any type of true acoustic.
Yeah.
The trees would probably do a better job of that than anything else.
Okay, and that's really what I had just this week was the lights and the fence. So I know they're taking care of the water issues and the sewer issues because we have had sewer smells come, but I know that they're taking care of that now so that we won't have sewer smells coming over in our yard so we can't even have a cookout. So, and if they're going to be using that area, they won't want it to stink either. So, But it does sound like they're trying to get the sewer issue and the drainage of rainwater taken care of. So, I mean, those were big concerns too. So,
Okay.
it sounds like they're taking care of the lighting stuff, shooting their lighting back on themselves. So, that's
Alrighty.
good.
Thank you, Mrs. Geezy.
Thank you. And
Anyone else wish to speak with regard to
can
the
I ask
application?
one more thing? If they have another meeting on this, can I still sit in so I can hear what's going on?
No matter what the outcome tonight, there will be a Board of Trustees public hearing. And you'll be notified.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Anyone? Okay, anyone wish to make a motion with regard to this application?
Well,
Go ahead.
I move that we consider case 2021-02 MA with the staff recommended condition.
Okay. Anyone care to second that?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Swanson. Okay, any further comments? Mr. Barrett?
Sure. I know I spoke to quite extent, I guess, last meeting about the density going in here, and I'm quite disappointed, I guess, that there's been no change at all. Understand what they've done with the cross sections, kind of elaborating on reality, I guess, of the relationship of the buildings to the adjacent parcel. But probably the biggest thing to take note of is the one cross section is really skewed. The one over in the northeast corner, I think, or northwest corner, showing a lengthy setback that occurs over, I guess, at a varying degree. They chose to put the dimension down as I think it's about 86 feet, but in reality, that building is only 40 feet from one of the neighbors there on the west boundary, and probably very similar on the north boundary. So so I thought we would see a little improvement, and so I'm disappointed we didn't see that. I still don't see any reason why they should be given any consideration for having more than 14.5 units per acre, since they've really totally, I guess, ignored the neighborhood around the boundary, around the perimeter, other than put the fence up. If we were planning this from scratch, I would say you put your 3-story buildings in the center of the parcel, and you put your 2-story buildings around the perimeter, and you have the least amount of impact on the adjoining property owners. But in this case, we're putting the taller buildings at the perimeter and looking right down on some existing homes, and I'm just not thrilled with what we're looking at. So, lighting, dumpster, all that I can see the improvements were made. I don't think we've talked too much about the traffic, but going up the west boundary, that driveway, I think the applicant's engineer referenced, they've got a loop drive, but we have to consider also that drive is taking, well, I don't know what the car count is, 75 cars probably going around that perimeter, and pretty much all of them are going to go right in the backyard of those properties to the west. So I see more detriment to the adjoining neighbors than benefit here. So appreciate the improvements to the property, but not to the detriment of the existing neighbors.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barrick. Ms. Flanagan, any comments?
I have been concerned about the density from last time as well. And I mean, we have these criteria that obviously others have taken a great deal of time to say this is our maximum, and here we are over it, and we just sort of ignore it. So I am concerned about that. On the whole, the project itself I like that they've been thoughtful about some of the critiques that have come up, but the density was the big one for me, and that hasn't changed.
Okay. Mr. Swanson?
I have no further comments.
Okay, Mr. Meese?
Nothing further.
Okay, from my standpoint, I certainly think that the suggested improvements are well taken. I think that the improvements overall that are before us are a great step forward. But I would agree with Mr. Barrick. I was quite frankly expecting that we would see something in that showed some reduction in the density, since I think there was a significant concern about the density expressed in the last meeting, and clearly there's been no reduction in that. You know, I'm not sure how many units would be reduced if we took that the two buildings in that north and west corner and reduced them from 3 stories to 2 stories, what that would do to the project. But overall, I'm disappointed that we didn't see any reduction in the density. I certainly appreciate the thoughtfulness going into the photometric displays and the lighting for the property. Great work in terms of the landscaping and the landscaping plan that's shown. Obviously, anything that's done, it's going to need the approval of the Metropolitan Sewer District and Greater Cincinnati Waterworks and the stormwater management. And I'm just wondering, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, at what point do you know, would you not need to upgrade the water service to the property? You know, if there was a smaller increase in the density, would you still have to put in the waterworks improvements that are being called for by the GCWW? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm just wondering about that. So overall, I think it's a good idea, a good plan. I still think it's a little bit too dense for this particular property. So if there are no other comments, we have before us the motion to consider the application that has been seconded. Mr. Meese, if there's nothing else, if you would take the roll call on that.
Sure. Mr. Barrick,
Nay.
Ms. Flanagan,
Nay.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Mr. Friedman.
No.
I will vote yes.
Okay, still going before the trustees, correct, Mr. Miller?
Yes, sir.
So do you know when the trustees meeting is going to be?
At this point in time, I do not. We will. I will report to the trustees, and they will schedule a public hearing. So, and maybe they may have it before the end of the month. If not, it'll be the first meeting in May.
Okay.
If may I, this is Kirk Copenhaver. If we go to the trustees with the 3-story buildings down to 2, would that be more amenable to the group?
That would be, at this point in time, it would be the decision of the trustees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've got the final say on the density anyway, so. Okay. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for your efforts put forth and for your attention here at the meeting. And with that, I think we will move on to the next item on the agenda. And it's new business. The case is 2021-04 LASR. Brooke Galani, Atlantic Sign Company, is the applicant for property at 7755 Montgomery Road. It's the local alternative sign location, the LASR.
Roger, I have a potential conflict of interest on this, so I will recuse myself from this case.
Okay. Mr. Barrick is excused. We still have a quorum, so we can continue. Mr. Miller, if you would bring us up to date on this.
Yes, sir. Screen share here. Okay, what you have before you is 2021-04 LASR, or laser as I've been referring to them. The applicant is Atlantic Sign Company, LLC. Again, the request is for a local alternative sign regulation at 7755 Montgomery Road, also known as the Redstone office building. Its current zoning is double E, planned retail, and this is within the SPI overlay district in Kenwood. I'll show you an aerial of this here in a minute, but to the north we have C, single family residence. To the south and east we have the O office also within the SPI overlay, as well as a component of D, multifamily residential. And then to the west we also have C, single family residence district. So let me. So this is kind of an interesting case, and I've been trying to work with the applicant on the correct wording of their application. So I'm going to try and explain this in a little better detail. The applicant is requesting a laser approval for additional signage on the Redstone office building. What they're looking for, and we'll look at the drawings here in a minute. They're looking for a maximum of 300 square feet in total building signage. The proposed plan specifies one large anchor sign at 100 square feet, and then 4 additional tenant signs at 50 square feet each. Some of those are already approved and already existing, and we'll get into that. The history on the site, there is an existing laser on the site from 2009-8 specifically, which allowed for a maximum of 3 building signs near the top facade of the building, not to exceed 250 square feet total. And it did not specify what the individual sizes for the signs. No signs shall be permitted on the rear of the building. That would be facing back toward the residential development to the north. And then we also have this component here that hasn't really been utilized. Provided the tenant has direct access to the plaza, each tenant may have 1 sign above their respective door entrance. No more than 6 tenant signs may be placed on the first floor facing Montgomery Road. And I think the final design of the first floor hasn't really lent themselves to utilize this, or maybe it was simply a design decision from the building managers. We can talk about that with the applicant. And then of course there are ground signs that are allowed on site. Item 4 was proposed ground signs shall not exceed 64 square feet in sign surface area, shall not exceed 9 feet in overall height, including the base, and shall have a base that is constructed of brick or stone to match the principal building. So again, this is the Redstone property. There were some outlots on this, but those have been split off. We are focusing on the main building. Again, you can see the single family residential areas here to the north, to the west, offices to the west as well, and then the multifamily that we're actually looking at is actually the township-owned property. That is currently in a planning study, which, even though we don't have a specific use yet, we are talking about utilizing it as some kind of mixed use. So this is just some. The applicant submitted a couple renderings or pictures of the building. This is showing the site without any signage on it. The applicant did submit these. There are 2 existing tenant signs that are there today. One over here, I believe that's the, I'm trying to remember which side they're on. Well, we'll take a look at it in a different, I guess Morgan Stanley's over here.
Right.
And then Is that Motley Foster right here?
Foster and Motley.
Foster Motley. Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. Okay. There's actually probably a better rendering of this. Give me a second. Gyro, which was a tenant in the space. They had the third approved site here. So there we go. Foster and Motley. There we go. So this is the applicant's submittal for building signage. You would be looking at 4 smaller tenant signs, and then what they're calling 1 anchor. The size difference would be, again, the anchor sign would be 100 square feet. Each one of these would be a maximum of 50 square feet each. This is just a structural detail. So, should the zoning commission recommend approval to the board of trustees, I'm going to make the following recommendation. This is really an evolution, if you will, of the existing laser on the site. Nothing was submitted as part of their application to change any site signage. So this would my comment is that the proposed laser shall only modify the building signage component of 2009-8 laser. The site signage provision shall remain in effect. What that's going to do is, if there is a new resolution approved by the Board of Trustees, we will have the new proposed language here. Let me bring it back. So the Redstone office building to include a maximum of 300 square feet in signage. The proposed plan specifies 1 center anchor sign and 4 additional tenant signs, 50 square feet each. That would replace items 1 and 3 on this. So you would still have, I would still recommend we keep the condition, no signs to the rear of the building, and then we don't change anything with any site signage allowances. So it's a little messy, but we can clean this up by resolution on the back end, if that's the direction recommended by zoning commission and approved by the trustees. So hopefully that's clearer than mud, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Mr. Miller? Bill Meese?
Yes. So just so I understand, the currently approved laser permits 250 square feet. And that's inclusive, and I'm looking at the history that what's approved for 2009-8 laser.
Mhm.
That 250 square feet is inclusive of the 6 tenant signs that can be if they have access to the plaza.
That's my read on it. Yes, sir.
So whatever they have up high plus anything of tenants facing the plaza all has to fit inside 250 square feet.
That's the way it looks to me.
Okay, and did I hear you also say, because of as things have evolved and tenancy has gone, nobody currently has one of those 6 tenant signs for a tenant that's facing the plaza?
I don't believe so.
It's just the two signs that are up there now, and gyro is gone.
The gyro sign is gone. At one point in time, there were 3. All 3 of those spaces were filled at the same time.
Gotcha. And did that consume the 250 square feet?
I don't have a total. I do believe the 2 existing signs are both within the 50 square feet.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have a total area for the for gyro.
Gotcha. Thank you.
If I had to guess, we would probably, and forgive me, I'm eyeballing this, but I would say we were close to 200 square feet.
200. Okay.
Yeah. The gyro wasn't that large. It certainly had a kind of first position, if you will, on the on the building. But it wasn't overly large for the space.
But if this were approved, in theory, the gyro sign, what they're asking for is that the gyro sign replacement would be 100 square feet. And then the two existing signs, which we're making the assumption are 50 square feet or less, plus then two more 50 square foot signs.
Yeah. So this would be a rough. This is basically the rough rendering that the applicant submitted.
Gotcha.
I'd have to look at Foster and Motley to see what the actual square footage is on that. I can pull it up.
Yeah. And under so we don't know that if this were approved, the two existing signs wouldn't be grandfathered in if they're larger than 50 square feet. They would have to comply with that 50 square foot requirement.
That would be a conditional recommendation of the zoning commission, and potentially a condition of the board.
Okay, thank you.
If they were in excess, that may be a requirement. So I'll during the applicant's presentation, I'll see if I can get those exact numbers for you.
Yes, Skylar, is that going to include the size of Morgan Stanley's sign and the Foster Motley? We know what the size of those signs are.
That's what I'm saying. During the applicant's presentation, I'll see if I can get those numbers for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Miller? Okay, hearing nothing, if there's anyone here for the applicant, if you would give us your name and anything that you wish to add to your presentation.
Mike Cassidy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Mike Cassidy with Preferred Resources. I work with I'm a sign graphic consultant and work with Atlantic Sign Company on various projects. I believe the two secondary tenant signs that are on the building right now are less than 50 square feet, but Skylar can verify that. And I know that the gyro was slightly under the 100 square feet also. I submitted a letter with the package that we submitted with all the documents, and I want to just touch on that briefly about the change in the environment on office buildings and leasing. And plenty of us have heard that term new normal, but I can tell you for a fact, as a matter of fact, I just saw a report yesterday regarding what we probably will see as excess office space. And that is a direct result. Well, it was coming around over time, but I think it was accelerated through the COVID system where people are now working from home and we're not seeing the corporate office spaces that we used to see. And I only bring that up because when you're in the office space industry and you're in the real estate industry and trying to lease office space, they've kind of got a dog in the race, but it's only got three legs. It will become more and more of a struggle as we go along to rent office space. I can tell you that my daughter-in-law works for Google in their recruitment program in Austin, Texas, and they took up 4 floors of a brand new high-rise right in downtown, and they are already considering backing that down to just 1 floor because the stay-at-home operation. My wife works for Dries Homes, who also is involved in commercial office space, and Dries is doing basically the same thing. My point is that what will happen with a 5-story building that we have now, is there'll be a reconsideration, a realignment on exactly how much office space that corporations will be willing to rent. One of the incentives, which we have seen probably over the last 20 years, is tenants that want to lease office space want to know, will they have the opportunity to advertise their name on the exterior of the building? And this becomes a condition of a lease. And this is where this comes into play for the Redstone building. We want to have that opportunity to explain to a potential leasee that, yes, we do have the opportunity to post your name on the exterior of the building. Currently, that building is over 161,000 square feet, but it currently has about 20% vacancy. So the challenge obviously will be, how do we get to that 100%? And it does, as much as people may not believe it or do believe it, those potential leasees are looking for that opportunity to have their signature sign, their signature name on the exterior of the building. I had a conversation earlier where this building actually has the capacity of 565 people, and currently there are only 65 people in that building. And how that will change when the COVID restrictions are lifted and people start taking a different viewpoint is going to be a major factor in how well Redstone is able to lease additional square footage. The other issue, or the other item that I want to mention, is under the existing laser, we're permitted the 3 signs, and we're actually only looking for 2 additional. The three existing signs that are currently there are under 250 square feet. And so, and I'm fairly confident, I know for a fact that the gyro was under 100 square feet. So we're looking at something very comparable to that size. And so if we're adding 2 more signs, we're adding, we're coming to a total of 300 square feet, whereas we're already permitted to 250. So we're looking at something more comparable to additional 50 square foot, however you want to shake it. It's like Skylar said, it's hope it's clear as mud, but basically we would like to go from 3 building signs to 5 with the additional of another 100 square feet. So that principally is my presentation. I will answer any questions that we might have. The signs will be internally illuminated. They will be just channel letters. There's no box signs permitted. I don't believe that there is any concern about the signage around or along the first floor, because basically this signage is a signature sign. Let me just expound on that a little bit. The ground sign that is out front was built based on the parameters that the township would permit, but it does the job in terms of identifying the address. But as far as the tenants are concerned, the copy is really too small from the sign industry standpoint. Once we get people to turn into that lane, we're looking at these signs as purely identification and signature. We want to let people know, yep, you just turned the right direction and you're headed in the right direction to find this particular tenant. So that's principally the purpose of the signs. It would be, of course, they would say they'd like to have bigger signs, but at this point, we realize there are parameters and limitations that we're dealing with.
Okay, Mr. Cassidy, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak with regard to the application before us?
Hi, this is Marie Ellis Fox with Redstone. So I would just like to add that, yeah, we are willing to give up the first floor signage that came originally with the development. So none of the first floor spaces that came around to wanting any exterior signage in that regards. They really want the tenants to enter or their customers to enter in through the lobby space and then come into their spaces as of today. So having that go away as part of the consideration to get the other two signing spaces is fine as it relates to just getting the overall approval. And then if anybody has any questions about Redstone or some of the comments that he made as it relates to where Redstone is today, I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fox. Okay, anyone else wish to speak with regard to the application?
Yes, if I may. My name is Larry Bernhardt. I represent Foster and Motley. And I did send an email to a few of you on this call last week regarding this matter. And we are sympathetic to the new normal, certainly. I think we've all have appreciation for what the pandemic's done. However, we don't believe that it's, we think it's a little premature to assume that any impact to the real estate industry due to the pandemic would be so great that landlords would be forced to take extreme measures. We do have a sign on the building, as you know, and we have been a tenant for 10 years, just got the sign recently, and we did sign a new 10-year lease. And we would have signed that whether or not we had the ability to put a sign up there. And Marina, I know Marie, hello Marie, and the Redstone is a beautiful building. It's a great building, it's very picturesque, very classic type building. And the 3 signs we understand, but putting 2 additional for a total of 5, we believe hinders the characteristics of the building. It's a venue that exudes professionalism. And again, adding more signs we feel would hinder that. Additionally, I would be concerned, and it's not my problem, this would be your problem, how other office buildings would react if they realized that a smaller building like the Redstone were allowed to add additional signs. What would they have come to expect? So this is something I wanted to point out as well. Again, it's a jewel. It was a jewel then when we signed 10 years ago, and it's a jewel now, and this is why we signed up for additional 10 years. And I just want to respectfully oppose any change to the current zoning that would allow 2 additional signs for those reasons.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Just very briefly, the Foster Motley sign is 52 square feet. Morgan Stanley is 39.
Okay, thanks, Skylar. If there are no other comments, anyone care to make a motion with regard to this application? Ann, I think you're muted. Muted. Are you speaking?
Thank you. I am. I was moving to have us consider 2021-04 LASR with the conditions noted by staff.
Okay.
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Meese. Okay, any further comments? Mr. Swanson?
I had to unmute. I have no further comments.
Okay, Mr. Meese?
No, sir.
Ms. Flanagan?
I think given that they're not asking for a great deal more in square footage and they're trading off the other 6 signs, I think it's somewhat reasonable. I know it's apparently benefited the Foster and Motley and Morgan Stanley, so I can understand the need for it in this time. I do like the way the building looks without it, but I can understand the need.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a very attractive building out there. I like the building. In terms of the signage, I think maybe we should add a little clarity that if we approve this, that the anchor sign cannot exceed 100 square feet, and the remaining 4 signs will not, none of them will exceed 50 square feet, but we're not going to tell Foster and Motley to reduce their sign by 2 square feet. So I would consider them kind of grandfathered in. So essentially what we're talking about in my mind is if this is recommended to go forward, that it be clear that the anchor sign be limited to 100 square feet, and that the two existing signs will stay in place, and any two additional signs or any additional signs in the future are limited to 50 square feet. So I don't know if we need to put all that into the motion.
When I pass the recommendation on to the trustees, can I say that any of the four subordinate signs, all future subordinate signs be and we can come up with a different word if we don't like subordinate, but shall be a maximum of 50 square feet. The anchor sign shall be a maximum of 100. And total not to exceed 300. It's kind of redundant.
Right.
Yeah, I think you do it that way, and I think you just provide an exception for the Foster Motley sign for the period of time that they remain as a tenant at the property.
Right. So I just didn't want to make a distinction between the two existing signs and the other two future tenant spaces. We just, tenants change over time. So right. I'd like to treat all four of those, equally in the future.
Yeah. So, and any new future tenant sign not exceed 50 square feet.
Yes, sir. All right. I will, we can certainly award that to reflect the spirit and intent of the commission.
And so, I mean, you will replace the entire 2009-8 LASR with our new language to make it clear that the individual signs at the street level are no longer included.
And for further clarity, Roger, I think that we would want to keep items 2 and 4 from the original LASR that pertain to can't have signs on the rear of the building and the data about the ground sign out front.
No, I would agree with that, Bill.
Yep.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah. So just so we're clear, items 1 and 3 will be removed.
Yes.
And
yes.
The new language would be one center anchor sign, maximum 100 square feet, and 4 total tenant signs, or what do we want to? Subordinate tenant signs, 50 square feet each, max each.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it also important that we identify where on the building those 50-foot signs can be? Because right now they're shown in the application as all on that one brick band that's at the top of the, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th floor. I think it's important that they be all along that band as well.
I would agree with that, Bill.
I will ask. I'll ask the applicant to just revise the drawing a little bit to be very clear, to truly specify this, and correct the language at the bottom. So the plan that's submitted to the trustees should reflect the direction that's being given tonight.
Yeah, and I'd even incorporate the picture into the recommendation that we're making.
Yes.
With those modifications. I think that helps a lot. There's a lot of clarity that way.
Yep, the plan will be included.
Okay. With that said, Mr. Meach, you want to take the roll on that?
Sure. Ms. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Mr. Friedman,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to the applicants, and I believe this also has to go to the trustees, correct, Mr. Miller?
Yes, sir. Most likely both cases will be heard on the same night. Stay tuned. I will we'll properly notice the applicant and the public.
Mr.
Okay,
Miller, may I ask
thank
a
you.
quick question? I'm sorry. Just want to make sure the grandfathering, our extra 2 feet square footage will be reflected in there as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. There are no other old or new business before us. At the beginning of the meeting, we jumped over the approval of the minutes from the March 8th, 2021 meeting. We still do not have the final minutes from the December 14th, 2020 meeting, but with regard to March the 8th, 2021, anyone care to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I had one change if I could. I had one change
okay, go ahead.
before, on the last page, I made a statement regarding number of issues and everything. And the second line of that paragraph has the word elevate in it, and that should be alleviate.
Okay. I'll note that on mine. Anything else?
No.
Anyone else have any comments or questions or concerns or suggestions or changes? Hearing none, anyone, Mr. Swanson had made a motion to approve the minutes, and I'm presuming that the motion includes the suggested change by Mr. Barrick. So any
Yes.
second of that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Meese. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The minutes from the March 8th, 2021 meeting are approved as corrected. Anything the trustees wish to report to us, Mr. Miller?
Nothing directly from the trustees. I'll give you a little update on some of our policy and planning projects that are coming down the pipe. We have the land use plan updates as well as the zoning text amendments. Those are we're actually going to submit both of those to the land use steering committee first. Land use steering committee obviously has taken the lead with first developing the land use plan. But one of the comments that came from I believe it was the 2016 attempted amendments to the zoning resolution was that there hadn't been a serious attempt to review the text amendments in conformance with the land use plan. So we're going to take the text amendments first through land use steering committee. If not in tandem, they're on parallel tracks and kind of staggered, if you will. So they're going to get a first look at those, taking into account the updates to the land use plan. Then both of those documents are going to be in front of the commission. The other project we're working on is the Montgomery Road properties. Again, these are the township-owned properties adjacent to the Redstone, actually, just west of the Kenwood Montgomery Road intersection. So we have completed 3 focus groups on that: the residents focus group, the business community focus group, and a developers focus group. All of those were live streamed and also recorded for review, and they are available to the public. We are currently in the process of summarizing the comments from those, and there will be a charrette. It's kind of a one-time planning, kind of think of it as a whiteboard session to go through there and try and develop if not a true master plan for the site, at least a conceptual plan that nails down some of the desirable features and the land use ratios that we would hope the site would be fleshed out with. So that's still in the early stages. There will be a final document from that, but we're looking at a probably late April or early May charrette and a report shortly thereafter. So lots of policy going on right now.
Hey, Skylar, what is the size? How many acres does that include? And does it include buildings like the building that Trio is in now?
No, it does not. And that's a privately owned property. Let me see if I have. Give me 1 second here. I thought I just had this. I'll tell you what, we'll.
It's about 7.5 acres, wasn't it, Skylar?
Well, it is. It's like 7.74, but that's gross. So I'm trying to. It's about 7.5.
That's close enough. I was just curious roughly how big it was.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of give you the extent of the site. So here we are. We're looking at the Redstone, Orchard Lane behind. Here's Kenwood Montgomery Road intersection. So our property is basically to the east of this developed site here with the doctor's office Redstone. Taco Bell is gone, but that's township owned property. The Pet Boys building, that's township owned. Then we also have the Terry Bryan Fitness here, all the way up to the BP. And then there's actually 3 single family homes back here also owned by the township. I know this is one of them. And then I want to say these 2, but I may be off by 1 parcel.
You're not sharing at the moment, so.
I'm not?
No.
There we go. Can you see it now?
Oh yeah, that's better.
My description probably would make a little more sense about sharing, right? So here we go. So western property line here at Redstone in the medical office, down here Taco Bell, Pet Boys, Terry Bryan. So our eastern boundary is up against the BP. Northern boundary would be the Trio parking lot, and then we do have 3 residential properties back here. I know this is one of them, and then I believe it's these 2 properties, although I may be off by a property here or there. But yeah, the total site is 7.74 acres. Once we net it out, depending on what we do with the residential properties, we're looking at closer at 7.
And is there going to be any attempt to purchase more of those residential properties, or do you just think we're where we are now?
So not at this time. That certainly hasn't been an active conversation by the trustees. It was a comment made by the developer group. So, it'll be interesting to see what final recommendations come out of this.
Okay. And I have one more, if you'll tolerate me. Is there any update on the Jewish hospital garage?
Well, I'm happy to report that they have formally, I guess not formally, but they have requested that it be pulled from the agenda. One of the side benefits of Jewish hospital hosting our focus groups is I was able to speak to the hospital administrator face to face, and she said, "Yeah, take it off. They're not abandoning that particular project, but it's certainly off radar for now."
Okay.
So they've got other improvements on site that they're working on.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Skylar, do we know if we have anything on the agenda yet for the May 10th meeting?
So nothing has been formally submitted, of course. Let's see. I'll have to double check the deadline. If not for our next meeting, I do have some other interested parties. This won't be the last laser we see this year. Let's put it that way. So
Okay.
there's been some interest at the Kenwood Collection, as well as I believe the Kenwood Tower, the Chase building.
Fair enough. Okay. There's nothing else. We'll certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll
Ms.
second.
Lang, second by Mr. Barrick. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We are adjourned. 7:20 p.m.
Take care.
Y'all.
Good night, all.
Have a good evening. Take care.